used to just sit with my eyes closed and I used to imagine कि मेरे दिमाग में data है, I'm like clearing it up and I'm cleaning it up. और करते करते, so much so, just about a month later, one of the things that you may find is through these sessions, at the end of each session, I'll be dumping a lot of information in your heads. So at the end of these sessions, you may find there's just too much, especially for people who are attending live, because जो मैं record कर रहा हूँ, I'll try to record this in small chunks ताकि देखने में बाद में कोई भी देखे तो it will be easier, आप specific segments को देख सकें. Like when you're attending it live, you're getting the whole thing in one go. Okay, we may not take breaks every day. So you may find there is just too much information, and I'm doing it on purpose. Stay with me. Okay. There may be times when I say something or I may share something with you and that makes you feel, ugh. And when that happens, I want you to look inside yourself. Okay, I'll be doing things on purpose. I'll be saying things on purpose. I may use some words that make you feel inside, but I want you to at that time look inside yourself. Okay, it's for you. So just bear with me with that. NLP, how it started, where it started. Initially, it was Dr. Richard Bandler. Richard Bandler, he was a student of computer sciences, and he was editing books of a very famous therapist उस ज़माने में, जिसका नाम था Fritz Perls. Like when you're being an editor, आप किसी की किताब edit कर रहे हैं, so it's like you study or you read it very, observe it very minutely or बड़ी एक चीज को. So he started taking interest in psychology, and what he found was कि ये जो Fritz Perls है, he is he's using some unusual kind of procedures in his therapies, and he was able to solve lots of problems जो दूसरे therapists जो नहीं कर पाते थे. जो Fritz Perls जो था, he was the founder of what is called Gestalt therapy. So he used to do things like I'll not get into that, but he used to do some amazing, some unusual kind of things. Bandler, being a very curious person, he thought, what if I start doing what he's doing? What if I start doing the same things that he's doing? So he started doing what he called modeling, जिसे आमतौर पे लोग mimicking कहते हैं. So उसने observe किया कि जब Fritz Perls बात करता है तो कैसे करता है, वो लैंग्वेज किस तरह इस्तेमाल करता है, वो खड़ा कैसे होता है, वो अपने कस्टमर्स को, ये जो इसके पेशेंट्स हैं उनको किस तरह से डील करता है. एंड बैंडलर स्टार्टेड मॉडलिंग दैट. ही वाज अबाउट 21 years old at that time, Richard Bandler. और फ्रिट्ज पर्ल्स जो था, he was a therapist with over 30 years of experience. लेकिन रिचर्ड बैंडलर ने in about 3 months time, by simply modeling Fritz Perls, started producing similar results. Taking patients and working with them and producing similar kind of results. Now think about this. एक आदमी 30 साल से ज़्यादा के experience है, एक लड़का जिसने भी 3 महीने हुए हैं, and he started producing similar results. So, and Bandler started claiming, I can model anyone. और उसने अपनी जो skills थी, he started giving demonstrations of skills in the University of Santa Cruz, जहाँ पे he was studying at that time. वहाँ पर एक प्रोफेसर था जिसका नाम था जॉन रिंडर. जॉन रिंडर जो था, ये लिंग्विस्टिक्स का प्रोफेसर हुआ करता था. और जॉन रिंडर को जब पता चला रिचर्ड बैंडलर के बारे में, so he saw some of his demonstrations and he said, he said to Bandler, if you tell me what you're doing, I'll tell you how you're doing what you're doing. And they decided to study some of the best therapists of their time. So उन दोनों ने जिन लोगों को सबसे पहले स्टडी किया, उसमें एक खातून थी जिनका नाम था वर्जीनिया सैटर. Now Virginia Satter जो थी, she was considered a magician in her field. She was one of those therapists who had this amazing ability कि जब कोई शख्स किसी के पास आता और it's like, so for example, first करो, आपके पास आपका कोई friend आए और आपके friend आके बोले मुझे कुत्ते से डर लगता है. What would you ask? What's the most logical thing to ask? मुझे कुत्ते से डर लगता है, मुझे छिपकली से डर लगता है. Okay, what's the most logical thing to ask? Why? Aspa says why. Yeah, Mariam says why. Okay, what else?
क्यों आपको किसी कुत्ते ने काटा था क्या?
आपको किसी कुत्ते ने काटा था क्या? कुत्ते ने काटा है तो मुझे डर लगता है, खामा तुम डरते हो? हाँ, why? Okay, now this is what most therapists ask. Now here's the thing: when you ask the question why, you are missing a lot of, you know, a big, you're making a big mistake actually. Okay, I'll talk about that later. But Virginia Satter जो थी, जब उसके पास कोई शख्स आता है कहता है मुझे कुत्ते से डर लगता है, she didn't ask why. She used to ask किस कुत्ते से, किस रंग के कुत्ते से, किस नस्ल के कुत्ते से. अगर एक छोटा सा पूडल वो वहां दूर बंधा हुआ हो तो तुम्हें उससे डर लगेगा. Okay, so rather than going into why people had problems, she was asking how they create their problems. And Richard Bandler, John Rinder ने जब उसको Virginia Satter को study किया, they thought, okay, now to do magical therapy, you need to go into more precisions. And they, you know, formulated a model of communication, which you will be learning later in this course, which they called meta model. और उन्होंने दो किताबें लिखी जो स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ मैजिक वॉल्यूम 1 और स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ मैजिक वॉल्यूम 2 या मैजिक 1 और मैजिक 2 के नाम से मशहूर हुई. ये दो किताबें जो हैं इनमें NLP का लफ्ज नहीं मिलेगा. ये किताबें जो हैं इसमें इन्होंने वर्जीनिया सैटर का जो कम्युनिकेशन का स्टाइल था, जो कम्युनिकेशन का मॉडल था, उसको उन्होंने डिस्क्राइब किया है. These are the very first books जो कि रिचर्ड बैंडलर, जॉन रेंडर ने लिखी थी. This was somewhere in 1974-75. Okay. और इन किताबों के बाद रिचर्ड बैंडलर का एक नेबर होता था, ग्रेगरी बीट्सन, who was an anthropologist if I remember correctly, and he read these books and he suggested to Bandler that, you know, you should go and study this man, Milton H. Erickson. Milton Erickson जो है था, he was a hypnotist. Milton Erickson की अपनी जो story है, that's amazing. Okay, Milton Erickson जो था, he was a hypnotist. When he was about 19 years old, he had an attack of polio. और पोलियो की वजह से उसके जो दोनों पैर थे वो उनसे पाहिज हो गया था. By birth he was color blind, so the only color he could see was purple. And Milton जो था, you know, he was stone deaf, and then वो जब तकरीबन around 35 की उसकी एज थी, उसको पोलियो, उसको फालिज का अटैक हुआ, जिसकी वजह से उसका राइट हैंड और लेफ्ट, one of the hands was paralyzed. Okay, so he was on his wheelchair, a colorblind man with all of these disabilities. He studied medicine, became a doctor, he studied psychiatry, he studied hypnosis, and he treated over 60 years of his life, from 1920 until his death in 1980, about 30,000 people through hypnosis. And he became the best hypnotist of his time, the best hypnotist who's lived during the last century. मिल्टन का काम इतना वास्ट है हिप्नोसिस की फील्ड में कि एक पूरी, यू नो, एक पूरी की पूरी फील्ड हिप्नोसिस की एक पूरी ब्रांच जो है वो इसके काम पे बेस करती है, जिसको एरिक्सोनियन हिप्नोसिस या इनडायरेक्ट हिप्नोसिस या कोवर्ट हिप्नोसिस कहा जाता है. So Milton Erickson को जब स्टडी किया, what Richard Bandler and John Rinder found is कि Milton is very very vague in his communication. So somebody would come to him and say मुझे कुत्ते से डर लगता है, and rather than talking about dogs, Milton would start talking about, you know, it's like मैं जब छोटा था तो मैं, you know, खेतों में रहा करता था और मेरे बाप जो था वो, you know, हल चलाता था, and he would start talking about things which are apparently totally irrelevant. And एक दफा Milton के बारे में I read somewhere, it's like there was the American Medical Association had sued Milton for using hypnosis. It said that Milton almost single-handedly got hypnosis recognized as a legitimate form of therapy. I don't know how true this is, but I've read it in several places. लेकिन कहते हैं कि Milton जो था, when he was sued, he was brought on his wheelchair, and there were all of these people sitting there. And Milton came and then he looked at them and he said, so gentlemen, you want to learn about hypnosis? And, you know, one of the persons who was in that jury says the only thing that I remember is we were all signing on the the contract, that the agreement that hypnosis can be used as a legitimate form of therapy. 3 hours had passed in between. Nobody had any idea what Milton did. Okay, that's good how Milton was. तो मिल्टन के बारे में आता है कि लाइक एक दफा he got sick, और जब वो बीमार हुआ तो it's like doctor ने उससे कहा that you need to change the state that you're living in, because the state that you're in is not suitable for your health. So Milton went home and he took all of his stuff and put it in the car. His wife, her name is Betty Erickson, and they started going, because they decided to change the state they were in. And America, there are like 50 states, 49 different states that you can go to. So, some say that they went 40 states to the south, and some say they went 30 states to the north. Some say they went 20 states to the east. Some say they went 10 states, and maybe 9 or 8 or 7 or perhaps 6 states, deeper and deeper towards north, and perhaps 5 or maybe 4. And as they kept on going, perhaps just one state, they stopped, and then they had this home, and then Milton looked at that and he said, okay, this is where we are going to stay, and I want you to stay in that state. And he said that we are going to stay in this state. And when they went inside that home, they found there was a lot of stuff left by some people who were there in the past. So he began to clean that place because he wanted to live there in that state. So he needed to make that cleaning. Oh, I remember when it's like sometimes people ask me, how did you get into NLP? My background, I often forget to give you my introductions. Okay, so this is how I started basically. So my father, this is my father's picture that you're seeing on the screen. My father was an artist. He was a modeler. He was an artist. He used to work in what is now Dow University. He was working in Dow Medical College at that time. और जो डॉक्टर्स को पढ़ाने के लिए मुख्तलिफ जो उस ज़माने में ये सारी चीज़ें नहीं हुआ करती थी, जो कि स्लाइड्स और प्रोजेक्टर्स वगैरह, तो मुख्तलिफ मोल्ड्स बॉडी के मुख्तलिफ पार्ट्स के, ऑर्गन्स के, ब्रेन के स्ट्रक्चर के, एंड skeleton और सारी चीज़ों को पढ़ाने के लिए. So my father used to create all of those things and this pictures so for doctors to study. So and when I was young, and I'm the only son, मेरी माशाल्लाह 5 बहनें हैं, and I'm the only son, and this is my picture when I was about 7 years old. So my father, मेरे अब्बू का जब इंतकाल हुआ, I was 18. तो हमारे घर में we had एक अलमारी थी, और उस अलमारी के जो अंदर there was a lot of stuff. Okay, it was like मेरे जो घर का it's like जो कॉर्नर में अलमारी पुराने घरों में जैसे होती है, आपने देखा होगा पाकिस्तान में बड़ी नॉर्मल चीज़ें, इंडिया में भी होती हैं, कराची के अंदर भी जो पुराने घर हैं, कि वो अलमारी घर के अंदर बनी हुई है और उस अलमारी के अंदर दरवाज़ा बंद है और उसके अंदर there was a lot of stuff. So जब मेरे अब्बा का इंतकाल हुआ और it's like हमने उसमें खोला, मैं जब छोटा था मेरे बचपन में, तो मेरे it's like my father used to have an 8 mm का एक प्रोजेक्टर हुआ करता था. I don't know if you have ever seen, कभी आपने अगर कायद आज़म की पुरानी वो वीडियोस देखी हो जिसमें वो तेजी से चलते हुए नजर आ रहे होते हैं, okay? वो जो वीडियोस हैं वो जनरली इस 8 mm के प्रोजेक्टर के ऊपर बनी है. So we had, I still have this in Pakistan. Okay, we had this 8 mm projector, and then my father also had lots of those reels. So जब वो अलमारी खोली तो उसके अंदर there were lots of those videos. There was videos, उनके अंदर कोई sound नहीं होती थी. Okay, you just project them on your on your wall in front, and then you see those videos from your past. So हमारे पास एक I still have this camera पाकिस्तान के अंदर, something very similar to this, not exactly these, but very very similar to these, एक slide projector. और इसके साथ my father also had lots and lots of slides. Okay, आप एक slide उसके अंदर लगाते जाए, and you project them on the screen, and you watch that. And then my father also left a tape recorder. उस जमाने में जो ये tapes हुआ करते थे, कैसेट से भी पहले की बात है. I understand many of people today don't even know these things, but उस जमाने में ये जो tapes हुआ करते थे, इसमें आप एक साइड पे वो टेप लगाते थे, दूसरी साइड पे ब्लैंक, और ये बीच में उसका हेड होता था, यहाँ से उसका पूरा तार वो लेकर जाते थे, और इधर वो चलता था, वो पूरा का पूरा उस पे फिर वो जो भी सॉन्ग है, जो भी रिकॉर्डिंग्स चलती थी. माय फादर यूज्ड टू हैव दिस, एंड आई रिमेंबर मेरे बचपन में माय फादर यूज्ड टू प्ले सम सॉन्ग्स. वन ऑफ देम वाज एक मना डे इंडियन कोई सिंगर था, उसका सॉन्ग था तुझे दीप कहूं या तारा, तुझे फूल कहूं या चंदा, मेरा नाम करेगा रोशन जग में मेरा राज दुराला, something of that sort. So my father used to play that song on his player. And you know what? When I was young, I used to think that it's my father singing for me. You see, it's like बच्चों का जो ज़हन होता है, they interpret things in their own ways. You have to be very careful when you're communicating with your children. So my father had this. तो जब मेरे अब्बू का इंतकाल हुआ, तो we had a lot of these tapes, the audios and these videos, and then slides, and inside that cupboard. But inside that cupboard, when I opened it after my father had passed away, I found that there is termite inside, and there's a lot of termite inside. और वो जो दीमक थी, वो उसने उस अलमारी को अंदर से खासा खोखला कर दिया था. And then I had to call someone कि आके उसको जो दीमक है उसको साफ करने के लिए जो लोग होते हैं. I called someone who came and started working on that, और उसकी वो जो सारा दीमक था उसको उसने निकाला. And I noticed something कि वो जो बहुत सारी वीडियोस थी, बहुत सारी मूवीज जो थी, or even slides, or even the audios which were inside, I had nothing to do with that. In fact, a lot of that was just a lot of garbage. Lot of pictures that my father had taken for his professional reasons or his personal reasons that I had nothing to do with. But we had all of this. We had, I had a cupboard full of these things. So I came to this understanding, and I want you to understand this, that your parents are just as human as you are. They've made mistakes, like any human being. And in order for us to love them, to respect them, to honor them, we do not have to carry the garbage that they have left. Think about this. It's just because somebody has made a mistake and we keep on repeating it just because हमारे बड़ों का यही तरीका है. Seriously? I mean, काफिर भी तो यही करते थे कि जब उनको दीन की तरफ उन अंबिया बुलाते तो जी हमारे बड़ों का यही तरीका है. And now we are using the same pattern, just repeating a mistake because हमारे बड़ों का यही तरीका है. And it's like, so if they've left some garbage, we just carry it because उन्होंने छोड़ा है. I realize I don't have to. So there were things, not everything was garbage. I'm not saying that. But there was a lot of things in that which was not relevant to me. That was pure garbage. So, I made a very simple decision to get rid of it. So, realizing that no matter what, my father was just another human being. So, when I had turned 18, my father passed away, and I was not very confident. But I had some family responsibilities certainly on my shoulders, being the only son. Suddenly, the day the father died, the son grows up. Even though मेरी माशाल्लाह 3 बहनें जो हैं वो बड़ी थी और 2 बहनें छोटी थी, but somehow I became the head of the family in some way. So I started my professional life, and that was 7th of January 1989. And over next 2 years, I changed about 7 jobs, or certain things had happened when I was about 14. For some reason, I had a very strong infatuation with a girl in my neighbors for like 7 years. I was seriously, madly thinking about her all the time. She actually became one of the reasons for me to learn a lot of things. एक दफा उस लड़की ने मुझसे ऐसे पूछा. I was in class 10th, by the way, जिस जब की मैं बात कर रहा हूँ. But I had this infatuation for her when I was probably about 14 or maybe 13. अब तो मुझे याद भी नहीं, इतना अरसा हो गया. लेकिन one day she came and she said कि आपको इंग्लिश आती है? मुझे इंग्लिश इतनी आती थी. Dear sir, I beg to state that I have been suffering from fever for last 2 days. Please grant me 2 days leave. Thanking you in anticipation. Okay, हम अक्सर लिखते हैं thanking you in constipation. Okay, so but she came and she asked me. She said आपको इंग्लिश आती है? यार इंग्लिश आती है. मैंने कहा जो ठीक अंग्रेजी सीखनी है. Okay, and I started learning English. And क्योंकि मैं एक गवर्नमेंट स्कूल से पढ़ा था, मेरी जो प्राइमरी एजुकेशन थी, इट वाज अंटिल क्लास 5 आई वाज इन अ गवर्नमेंट स्कूल. हमारे स्कूल में क्लास में टेबल्स भी नहीं होती थी, हम चटाइयों पे बैठ के पढ़ते थे. और मेरी अम्मी को शौक था कि भाई इकलौता बेटा है, इसको मैंने पढ़ाना है, तो प्राइवेट स्कूल में डालना है. तो उनको शी हैड दिस कि किसी प्राइवेट स्कूल में डालना है, तो उन्होंने गुलिस्तान स्कूल में मेरा एडमिशन किसी ना किसी तरह करवा दिया. इट वाज रियली एक्सपेंसिव एट दैट टाइम, कंसीडरिंग हमारा जो फाइनेंशियल स्टेटस था. But my mother had me going to this private school. Okay, और वहाँ पे भी इवन दो इंग्लिश मीडियम स्कूल था, बट जो इंग्लिश मीडियम स्कूल्स में उर्दू पढ़ाई के अंदर अंग्रेजी भी पढ़ाई जा रही होती है, हमने वैसे ही क्लास 10 तक पढ़ा था. And I was just an average student. My teachers used to say, it was like, Kamran, you can really do great. थोड़े से अपनी मेहनत कर लो, थोड़ी से. हमने कहा यार क्या जरूरत है मेहनत करने की, बगैर मेहनत के पास हो जाते हैं. Okay, but my teacher used to say that. But when I started my professional life, मेरे अंदर I was not very confident. I had lots of fears inside me. I was very doubtful. I didn't feel totally confident. मैंने कई jobs जो है वो change करी, और jobs change करने, I'll tell you some more stories about several of those jobs that I changed. But it was around 1991 when things didn't work out, by the way, in that the 7 years of infatuation. Things didn't work out well. Alhamdulillah, it didn't work out. And sometimes जब चीजें खराब होती हैं तो उस वक्त में बड़ा बुरा ये क्या हो गया. But later we find कि alhamdulillah जो हुआ वही बेहतर था. हम अक्सर जिंदगी में होने वाले जो इवेंट्स होते हैं, वाकयात होते हैं, हम उसको मिसइंटरप्रेट कर रहे होते हैं, and we are not realizing कि how it is being beneficial for us. So things happened and things didn't work out, alhamdulillah, and I did something with my brain. And what I did with my brain was कि मैं अपनी आंखें बंद करके बैठता था, और it's like I used to think कि मेरे जहन में डेटा है and I'm like deleting. और मैंने लिटरली, जैसे उस जमाने में, इफ यू रिमेंबर कंप्यूटर अगर आपने पुराने यूज किए, डॉस बेस्ड जो कंप्यूटर सिस्टम्स होते हैं, उस पे आप इफ यू वांट टू डिलीट समथिंग, द कमांड इज del space steric dot steric and you delete all the files. I used to do that with my brain, and I did that so effectively that in about a month's time I had done that every day. By the way, जब मेरी वो इश्क में शदीद किस्म की नाकामी हुई थी, तो मुझे कोई 103 104 बुखार हो गया था, बड़ा सीरियस किस्म का. तो डॉक्टर्स के पास हम जाते, डॉक्टर कहते हैं इट्स जस्ट वायरल है, और दोस्त जो थे वो कहते हैं इश्क का बुखार है, ऐसे नहीं जाएगा. ओके, बट हुआ ये कि उस वक्त मैं जब बुखार में होता था, आई यूज्ड टू जस्ट सिट विद माय आईज क्लोज्ड एंड आई यूज्ड टू इमेजिन कि मेरे दिमाग में डेटा है, आई एम लाइक क्लियरिंग इट अप एंड आई एम क्लीनिंग इट अप. और करते करते so much so, just about a month later, अपने एक दोस्त, is like one of my closest friends, मेरा बचपन का दोस्त है, I call him Buddha now. Okay, you'll hear about my Buddha friend throughout this program as well. So हम लोग बैठे हुए थे, and वो लड़की सामने से गुजरी, And मैंने उसको देखा and I said to my friend, I said यार ये लड़की देखी हुई लग रही है. Now my friend knew me and he knew what I had gone through and he thought कि शायद मेरे ऊपर कोई it's like असाबी कोई वो हो गया, मैं कोई psychological कोई मसला हो गया है. He said कि काम यार छोड़ ना यार, ये क्या मतलब छोड़ यार, देखी हुई लड़की है, लाइक 18 साल की उम्र में 19 साल की उम्र में लड़कियां देखी हुई गुजर रही होती हैं, आदमी देखता है, वो वाली चीज थी. I was 21 at that time. So I saw it and said, यार I've seen this girl. And my friend, अरे यार छोड़ ना कर. मैंने क्या मतलब छोड़ यार, देखा है, मैं बता रहा हूँ देखी हुई लग रही है लड़की. तो he said कि यार ये वही तो है. And I said वो है तो ये इतनी डिफरेंट क्यों लग रही है? And she really looked different. My brain was not processing the same way. And उस वक्त by the way एक वो कराची में ट्रक्स के ऊपर एक शेर लिखा हुआ था, वो समझ में आया. वो शेर जो था वो कुछ यूं था, मिलते तो अब भी हैं लेकिन पहले जैसी बात नहीं, तुम ही बदल गए हो या फिर अपने वो जज्बात नहीं. तो अपने वो जज्बात नहीं रहे. Okay, because my brain was not interpreting that same girl who was on my head for 7 years the same way. Okay, and this is before I had learned the word called neuro-linguistic programming. You see, the thing that you do in NLP, you will find that everything that you're learning in this program, you do at some stage. You have done it at some stage. It's just that you were not consciously aware of it. Now you will be becoming consciously aware of it and you will find, I've done this, I can do this. You've already done all of it. There's nothing new here. You will become more systematic. So NLP, this training will give you a more systematic way of doing it. Not something entirely new. And I'm telling you today, I'm telling you right now, इस program में you will find, जब आप सीख रहे होंगे, you will say, I've done this. ये मैंने भी किया है. ये मैं पहले कर चुका हूँ. Because there is nothing new here. It's just कि जब पहले आप कर रहे थे, it was not conscious. It was not through awareness or not in a systematic way. Now, inshallah, you will find you will become more systematic about it. So, मैं जब ट्रेनिंग में एक जॉब पे मुझे जब NLP के बारे में फर्स्ट टाइम पता चला था, दैट वाज इन 1992. और उस वक्त पाकिस्तान में एक साहब उमर खान नाम है उनका, he came to Pakistan and he conducted an introductory kind of course. He was not an NLP trainer, he called himself NLP expert, and he conducted a course called something like Mastery of Self through NLP. So it was like an introductory program. I attended that program, और उस program को जब मैंने attend किया, उस जमाने में मैं सेल्स की जॉब करता था. और मैं जब सेल्स की जॉब करता था, I was working in an organization जहाँ पे हम लोग कंप्यूटराइज्ड टेलेक्स मशीन्स बेचा करते थे. और सेल्स में I used to go and to meet different clients, and मैं मुख्तलिफ लोगों से मिलते. तो एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन थी जहाँ पे मैं जाके एक साहब से मिलने की रोज कोशिश करता था. कभी उन्हें कॉल करो तो उनकी जो सेक्रेटरी होती थी, and she would say कि जी अभी busy है, नहीं है, but like I was unable to get to that person. But there is something interesting in this world, and I'm not talking about law of attraction, but there is something interesting in this world, and that is, it's like when you focus your mind, your energies in one direction, you will find that things start happening for you in certain ways. So मैंने जब उमर खान का वो प्रोग्राम अटेंड किया, उस प्रोग्राम में there were I think about 40 people, और उन्होंने 5-5, 6-6 लोगों के ग्रुप्स बना दिए थे. तो मेरे ग्रुप में एक साहब थे, और वो साहब जो थे वो साहब थे जो उस कंपनी के हेड ऑफ द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन थे. और वो जो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन थी उसका दैट इज, आई बिलीव इट इज स्टिल देयर, पाकिस्तान में साइट में इसका ऑफिस होता था. उसका नाम था पाकिस्तान गवर्नमेंट केमिकल्स. ओके, और उसके जो हेड ऑफ हुआ करते थे उनका नाम था मुनव्वर अब्दुल्ला अली, इफ आई रिमेंबर करेक्टली. ओके, सो उनसे मेरी जब वहाँ पे मुलाकात हुई, एंड ही आस्क्ड मी, सेड कामरान, just in one of the breaks he said, Kamran, what do you do? And I said कि जी मैं ये टेलीफोन एक्सचेंजेस एंड टेलेक्स मशीन्स वगैरह बेचता हूँ. He said, really, तुम टेलेक्स मशीन्स, टेलीफोन में? यार हमें भी चाहिए टेलीफोन, हमें PABX अपनी कंपनी के लिए चाहिए. Can you come and meet me sometime? I said, sure. I didn't tell him, by the way, that I've been trying to meet you for so long. Your secretary doesn't allow me. So he gave me his direct number, and he said, okay, now, it's like, come on Monday, and like, this is my number, just call me and then walk in. I said, great. So I called him, and he told his secretary कि ये Kamran Sultan आएगा, and he was just let him in. तो बहरहाल मैं जब गया उनसे मिलने के लिए, so उनकी कंपनी में जो पुराना एक टेलीफोन एक्सचेंज लगा हुआ था, it's like I don't know if you have seen these old PABX systems, उसके अंदर it's like टेलीफोन ऑपरेटर जो है वो इधर से उधर वो नॉब्स स्विच करती रहती है इधर से उधर कॉल मिलाने के लिए. So they had this old system. And I asked, Munawar Bhai, and I called him Munawar Bhai because I said, so Munawar Bhai, how long have you been using this? And he said, since the inception of the organization. And so, unki paas jo wiring thi, they had this system and this wiring in the basement, and it was like an old wiring. And everything was literally, jaise hum Urdu mein kehte hain, gud mud. They had this old system. And it's like आप कॉल कर रहे हैं HR में तो पता चला वो प्रोडक्शन में चली जाती है, आप प्रोडक्शन में कॉल कर रहे हैं तो पता चला वो मार्केटिंग में चली जाती है. It's like because the wiring was all hodgepodge. So I was offering them a new way of communication, a new electronic system, which was a decent small system, a computerized system, a very sophisticated system. And in order to install the new system, we had to go inside and make some changes, because deep inside जो wiring हुई हुई थी, the wiring that they were operating on from the very beginning, deep inside, that wiring is not something that will be suitable for this new installations. So as I went inside, I said, it's like we need to change this wiring. Inside there is this wiring that is not going to work very well. So, we quoted them, and to cut the long story short, the first thing that we had to do was we had to install, in order to install this new system, we had to take all the wiring out, and gradually हमने, it's like आहिस्ता आहिस्ता सारी wiring जो थी उसको clean करना शुरू किया, निकालना शुरू किया, and we started, installing new wiring, एक ज़्यादा sophisticated, एक ज़्यादा systematic अंदाज में, which would be more suitable with the new system that we were installing. It took us a little while, okay, and because we needed new wiring in order to install a new system. So that's the early days of NLP. So जब Richard Bandler, like मेरे साथ ये होता है, मैं बात करते करते कहीं से कहीं चला जाता हूँ, इसलिए I keep these slides. It's like until I started my online classes, I didn't use slides. I have this bad habit of speaking, just like seeing people and start speaking, and it's like, but slide से क्या होता है, जरा वो स्लाइड बनाते हैं ना, तो फिर आप जरा ज्यादा सिस्टमैटिक होके बात कर सकते हैं, इसलिए मैं आप स्लाइड बना के आपको दिखा रहा हूँ. ये स्लाइड्स बाय द वे जो आप देख रहे हैं, और जो मैनुअल आपको, I'll send that to you. You'll find it in your portal. लेकिन जो ये slides हैं, this will work as the manual for you. Okay, but I'll still send you a manual. So Richard Bandler, John Grinder ने जब Milton Erickson को study किया, so what they found is that Milton is really artfully vague in his communication. Okay, so they wrote 2 more books जिनका नाम है Patterns of Hypnotic Techniques of Milton H. Erickson Volume 1 and Volume 2. So ये 4 किताबें, Structure of Magic Volume 1 and 2 and Patterns of Hypnotic Techniques of Milton Erickson Volume 1 and 2, ये पहली 4 किताबें हैं जो रिचर्ड बैंडलर और जॉन ग्रिंडर ने लिखी थी. इन चारों किताबों में आपको न्यूरो लिंग्विस्टिक प्रोग्रामिंग का लफ्ज नहीं मिलेगा. Okay, the Structure of Magic जो है, that's about precision communication, the way that Milton, the Virginia Satir used to communicate. And Patterns 1 and 2 is about artfully vague communication. Richard Bandler, being a physicist, being a mathematician, he says, we thought there has to be something common between these two, because Virginia Satir jo hai, she's considered a magician in her field, and Milton is considered a magician in his field, but they are both going in different directions. So there has to be something common. तो वो common elements जो थे, उन common elements को उन्होंने एक systematic model में रखा, and they named it neuro linguistic programming. Okay, so And that's how NLP came about. NLP पे जो सबसे पहली किताब लिखी थी उसका नाम था Frogs into Princess. लेकिन ये जो 4 किताबें हैं, इन 4 किताबों में NLP का लफ्ज नहीं मिलेगा. पैटर्न्स या मैजिक 1 and 2 या पैटर्न्स 1 and 2, इनमें आपको NLP का लफ्ज नहीं मिलेगा. But these were the first 4 books जो कि रिचर्ड बैंडलर और जॉन ग्रिंडर ने लिखी थी. So you will be learning the Milton model जो इन पैटर्न 1 and 2 के अंदर आपको मिलेगा, and you'll be learning that model as we progress through this program. So this is the brief history, and there are, it's like as you can keep looking into what the history says, or you can think about where the future is and what's in it for you in the future. So we'll not go into a lot of history now, and we will look into what you can do with this, but ye chand basic cheezein hain which are useful for you, so I thought it's good to share these things with you.